Guys, I know we're early. Oh, I do have my tripod in the car. I'm unprepared. Bear with me. Caught in my Fendi bag. Sorry, you guys are gonna look seasick for a little while. Sorry. I had to come out to the car to get my tripod.
What's up, Patty? How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing well.
I'm working today, but not working.
Living.
I'm doing this. God,
Where are you right now?
the San Bernardino County Fair setting up.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it opens Memorial Day weekend. So this is my last day to like decorate and set stuff up for the fair and do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And because I'm going deep sea fishing this weekend. I am not playing around.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. Is Memorial Day, it's next weekend, 2 weeks? I don't
Mm,
even can't remember.
I think it's in like 2 weeks. It's
2
not
weeks,
yet.
yeah.
I'm trying to figure out where I can go sit and not be interrupted. We're just going to make ourselves a bat cave. Oh, other people are on. Let's let them in. Hello, hello. I guess I'm at the fair. I should go sit behind some fair ribbons, right? Like, hey, you guys, check this out.
Go get on the Ferris wheel.
It's not set up yet. I don't recommend it.
That's what you're building, isn't it?
No, we're
I'm
putting up
just,
like,
just kidding.
you don't want me building the Ferris wheel. You won't ever ride that ride but once.
Uh,
Let's have a little Red Bull and we'll call it a day.
could use some caffeine, actually.
Caffeine is my best friend today. Because I don't know what I was thinking, but I bit off way more than I could chew. I know I saw a straw. I'm not crazy. Maybe I am. Banging construction. Gotta love me. All right, here we go. We'll let more people in. Admittal. Hey, everybody. I know it's a little early still, just letting people get logged on. I am not ready for the day. So we are watching Patty walk around the fair like a chicken with her head cut off. But I found us a place to land. Kind of. And we should not be bothered. My alarm says, hurry up and run to your phone. It's 11:59. Here comes everybody. Everybody's coming now. Why is this not? Here we go. Here we go. Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday. How's everybody doing? You guys can all hear me okay, I'm sure. You would have yelled at me by now. I'm going to have a little bit of background noise. We're still trying to set up the San Bernardino County Fair. I got all my art on the walls and all my ribbons done. And we got a lot of noise. We may even have to go outside. Let me see if I can find us a quieter place to be.
We're not getting too much. We're not
You're
getting
not getting all the
too much.
hammering and the banging and the.
No, it's not too bad.
Okay. I might be, oh, you know what? I could sit in here and nobody will bother us. It's just going to be a little echo. You guys don't care if we echo, right? I even see a chair. If I can figure out how to open it. I think they might have used it in a wrestling match. Never mind. All right, we'll just sit out here with all the glorious noise. And you guys will yell at me if it's too bad. Right? Oh, here comes Allie. I can't let her in. Don't know why my little tripod just is not arguing with me today. Oh, I fixed it. All right, there we go. I think we're. Patty, I'm waiting to get my certificate of occupancy, fingers crossed. I got my fingers crossed with you, girl. We're at the fair today, you guys. We might hear some noises around. If it gets too bad, let me know. I'll see what I can do about it. Hello, happy Wednesday. Oh, we got a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about. We actually have a special guest speaker today because you guys aren't going to believe what I did. You know how we're having such a rough time? Can we review cosigner versus guarantor? Absolutely. Give me a second though, okay? You guys know how when it comes to exterminator companies, we want to bang our heads sometimes. We're having difficulty getting bedbug certifications that it's bedbug free. But more importantly, and this is the part we really need to pay attention to, we're having trouble getting cause of infestation reports and cleanliness reports from our exterminator companies. You guys know as well as I do, those are golden to us when we're trying to evict a nuisance. I'll leave that statement at that. You're not going to believe what happened. I found somebody. I really did. Not only will they inspect for bed bugs, they'll give you a certificate saying it's bed bug free on that day at that time so that it'll help you to bill back expenses down the road in the event that that cost falls on the tenant and not on us. Okay. Still letting people in, so just bear with me, you guys. I'm going back and forth. So more importantly, I know sometimes when we're trying to get a cleanliness report or a cause of infestation report, we're not getting any assistance from our exterminator companies. They don't want to be bothered with it because they don't want to be called into court. Guess what? Guess what? It's all yours. Have at it.
Awesome.
Guess what I found?
Yeah, thank you, Patty. So, my name's Eric. On the call with me is Adam. I think his name on his screen also says Eric because I just shared the link with him. But but that is Adam. Um, Adam is the CEO of A Kellogg Pest Control. I'm one of his business partners. And I actually stumbled across Patty flat on my face on accident, just sending out some marketing emails. And when I called her, she goes, "Do you know who I am?" I go, "No, I have no idea who you are." And she said, "Good." And she started to grill me, as many of you probably know, Patty. She has a very spunky personality and threw the heat on real quick on what we do as a pest control company and what we offer and things like that. And one of the first things that she asked was what we do with our reporting and what we're willing to do and things like that. And so to get more information, Patty, Adam, and I sat down yesterday and started talking about some of the things that we do at Akella. And I think Patty's eyes got as big as about her entire face when she heard kind of what we're doing. And she said, "You need to talk to my people because my people need you." And so here we are, 24 hours later, and I feel like Patty's already my best friend. Um, and so, first of all, Patty, thanks for having us on. Adam, if you want to give a little background on like Akella and how long you've been around and stuff like that, and then I can kind of let them know some details of what we're doing.
And if you guys want to type your link to your website in the chat, that way people can grab a hold of that and make sure they have your contact info. That would also be awesome.
Yes, no problem. I'll take care of that while Adam's talking.
Awesome.
Paddy, I'm already sold to him. I really need his information.
Awesome.
Hey, I did
well-
all the footwork yesterday, so you guys don't have to.
We held her for, I don't know, Patty, how long?
2 hours.
Out 2.5 hours.
Yeah, about
Yeah.
2.5 hours.
And but she did get food. She got free lunch, so it was worth it for her.
So my name's Adam Stout. I started A Kellogg Pest Control back in 2013. So 12 years ago. I got into pest control in 2007. So almost 20 years in the industry. I started in sales and then I have a degree in construction management. Once I finished college, I started my own company in 2013. And we're based in the Inland Empire and we cover essentially all of Southern California for the most part, predominantly East LA County, um, Orange County, North San Diego County, Riverside County, and San Bernardino County. So we have a really large service area. When it comes to inspections, reports, we're willing to go other places or further in that situation. So very familiar with it. We do a lot of residential, commercial apartments. We deal with a lot of landlords and tenants, and so we're not new to the space by any means, and we really enjoy what we do. I think the biggest satisfaction that I get out of being a pest control service is being able to take an issue that my clients have that they couldn't take care of themselves and being able to solve that problem or help take care of that issue. And I get a lot of satisfaction out of that, knowing that I'm helping the people that we serve. So, Eric, do you want to talk about what we talked
I
about?
want to talk about the most important things you guys do, because that's what matters to the rest of us.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, I'll hop in on that right now, of what we're doing. So really what we want to review, I mean, in a basic sense, we do everything all pest control companies do, right? We don't need to talk about all that. You guys are all property managers, things like that. You're very well aware of what pest control companies do when it comes to bugs, things like that. So we don't need to review all that. We do termite, all the good stuff. But what Patty wants to get into, is when it comes to some certifications, right? And so the biggest thing we know in California, and Adam himself like has properties that he's a landlord for and has dealt with, and he's, some of the nightmares we deal with in California. We know how tough it can be for landlords, property managers, property owners, things like that. As we were talking with Patty, she came to realize very quickly that at Akella, it's really important to us that we provide as much power to the landlord or the property manager as possible. Now, the reason this is really important to us is because as much as of course, we care about the service we're giving the tenants, right? We want to give them the best experience, just like you guys do. But the tenants aren't they're not our client, right? Our clients are you guys. And so the power should sit with all of you, right? And the communication with us and the value that we could provide you guys and the value we provide all of our property managers that we work with or any landlords we work with. And so how do we do that? How do we get you guys that power back in the state of California? Well, there's a few ways, right? The first one, and I know that this is a big deal in California, is when it comes to bed bugs, a certificate of bed bug clearance. Now, what do I mean by that? So before a tenant moves into a home, right, we want to make sure there are no bed bugs. Why do we want to make sure of this? Well, if we don't make sure that there's no bed bugs, and then the tenant brings bed bugs in, odds are these tenants are going to make it your problem, right? So what we're happy to offer you guys is we will go to the home or to the property or apartment, whatever it is. We will inspect for bed bugs and we'll provide you with a certificate stating, time stamped and date, that at this very moment in time, right? If it's 10:03 a.m., at 10:03 a.m. on May 15th, there were no bed bugs in this home. So if the tenant moves in at 10:04 a.m. and there's bed bugs, well, we know where the source of infestation came from, right? And you guys have that. Now, a massive reason.
It gives you guys the power to put the expense of the extermination back on the tenants.
That's exactly right. And a lot of pest control companies, and Patty and I were talking about this, and Adam, they don't want to do this because they're like, well, it might mean I have to go to court, right? And it's a waste of my time, and then I'm not making money because my guy's not out doing service, or I'm not out doing service, or whatever it is, right? And we don't see it that way. We see it a very different way, and we think this is where a lot of pest control companies have really dropped the ball. And so what we provide with, and we have some other certificates we'll talk about, what we provide with this is we're more than happy to support our clients if there is some sort of court case that's coming into play. And so we have actually an expert testifier, right? So we'll send someone at an hourly rate to go and sit at court and to testify if need be. Now, all of us know that 99% of the time, it's not going to go to a jury, right? Most of the time, there's going to be a settlement, whatever it is. But what we do know is that it's a hell of a lot cheaper to pay for a certification for bed bugs so that it's not a nightmare for you guys than it is to not do it and then, have a multi-million-dollar lawsuit on your hands like we recently had in California, which I'm sure Patty's
LA,
talking about.
LA.
Yep. In
$6.8
LA.
million. $6.8 million.
And the sad thing in California is like that seems to be like the norm, right? And so how do we protect ourselves? Well, we protect ourselves this way, and you guys need a company, right? You need an expert company that knows what they're doing here and how they're handling this. The next thing that we're happy to do for you guys are cleanliness reports, right? And so if we go into a home and they're dealing with German roaches, right? All of us have dealt with this. We're happy to give you guys a cleanliness report as well, so that if the tenant isn't keeping in line with what the exterminator, us, is telling the tenant to do to avoid having these German roaches, well, guess what? That's on the tenant, right? It's the same situation as the bed bugs, right? And so we're happy to provide those as well. And then the last thing that we do that most companies aren't doing is finding the source of infestation or the reason for infestation. This can be a little bit more complicated. A lot of times we can find the source or find the reason, whether it be cleanliness or it might be a neighboring apartment, right? Whatever it might be. And then there's times where we can't, right? We can't put our finger on it. We don't know exactly what it is, but at least you guys have the information that you need to move forward with any litigation or anything that's happening.
May I ask you a question? I'm sorry. May I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
So,
I'm
for
actually just
example,
finishing up there, so go for it.
yeah. Okay, look, you go to an apartment and you find infestation. There were no infestation before. Now you found it. Now, most likely she got the couch from outside. She brought it in. Is there any way for you guys to know really this couch was the problem and not a hole through the wall that the neighbor sent through? How would you
Well-
be able to, differentiate it?
I'm going to answer that. I'm going to answer that, David. For the most part, tenants don't want to tell us the truth when we go to a property. They don't talk to us, the landlord. They don't want to talk to us, the property manager. They get quiet. They hide things. Let's be honest. But when a workman shows up there, they let their guard down and usually verbal vomit. Oh yeah, we think we got bed bugs because my wife restores used furniture. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can happen in order. But my point is, tenants don't talk to us and tell us landlords or tell us property managers what the problem is. But when a workman goes in there, they usually verbal vomit to them. And
Yeah,
you heard him in the beginning. He said he works for you, not for the tenant. So he's going to listen to that. He's going to absorb it. And then he's going to put in his statement that this tenant claims that they brought the bed bugs in with a used couch. That's what he's going to do to help you, David.
Thank you.
Yeah.
God bless.
Yeah, that tends to be what happens. And look, it's not 100%, right? But most of the time, the way this works, right, is our technicians are very well trained and they're very personable, right? And so, and again, the main reason for that is we want our customers to have the best experience possible. We want your good tenants to have a great experience, but there are nightmare tenants, and we're aware of this, right? And so the first thing we're doing when the technician arrives to do the inspection is the question is going to be, You know, hey, what changes have you made? Have you brought anything new into the home? You know, are you constant, you know, or did you buy some new appliances recently, right? Did you buy some old appliances recently? Because we want to find the source to give the tenant the best experience to get rid of the problem. We have to know where the problem's coming from in order to treat it, right? To take care of it. And so most of the time, yeah, David, the tenants will open up to us about where these things came from. And then, like we said before, it is important that we get the certification done before this even happens, right? So a lot of people are thinking, oh, okay, so if I have a new tenant move in, I should get this certification. No, no. If you have any tenants, you should be calling me and we should be doing a certification now. Because if I can get you certified on May 14th at 12:16 p.m. on 50 of your properties you're working with now, well, then in the future, when these bed bugs appear, you guys have that in your back pocket. And that gives you so much power. That gives you so much leverage to help protect yourself, right? And then from there, you know, we can try to find the source, things like that. But to me, the most important piece is that certification, right? That's where it's all going to start, right? Well, were these bed bugs here before and they just never reported it? Nope, they were not. They were not. So something the tenant did, or maybe if it's apartment complexes, obviously you can get a little bit more complex, right? We know this, but that certification is your first massive line of defense that we want to focus on. Does that answer your question, David?
He'll get back on here. He's probably
So-
nodding.
No, yes, I got it. I was on the other line. Yes, thank you so much.
Awesome.
I got everything. Thank you.
Okay,
This
now I
also
have,
applies to German roaches, right? So German roaches are similar to bed bugs where they're very difficult to get rid of and treat. And a lot of times cleanliness and clutter have a big effect on German roach treatments. And so if you have a tenant that moves out and you can get a clearance that the home is free and clear at that time and that day from German roaches, now if German roaches pop up, you know that they've brought them with them.
okay, I got one question for everybody that's in the widgets way right now. Are you guys paying attention? Are you guys hearing this? Okay, go ahead.
So let's talk a little bit about pricing, okay? So typically
I'm
our
sorry to cut you out. One more question before you go there.
please.
Question is, you know, you go to an apartment, popsicles everywhere, you know, dirty dishes, you know, the carpet hasn't been cleaned, you know, stickiness everywhere. Are you going to refer to that when it comes to writing your report?
Adam, go ahead and answer that.
So when we do an inspection or we do one of these reports, we're going to offer a cleanliness report as well. Now, the cleanliness report will say things like verbiage, very cluttered. And Patty, you have even better verbiage than I might have. What were you saying yesterday? Eric left his.
In regards, it's a pack rat.
Pack rat.
I
Yeah.
don't like the word pack rat because my mom drilled that into me that that was a bad word.
But
So,
we don't use the word hoarder because it requires a medical diagnosis and we're not doctors.
but I might say excessive clutter, right? Lack of
No, lack of vacuuming, you know, dirty dishes, like food crumbs all over the property, things like
conducive
that.
conditions, right? So conducive conditions means that the environment is very conducive to the insect that we're speaking of, right? So those conducive conditions can be food debris left out, lack of cleanliness, all sorts of different things. And
I
so
love it. They're already with you guys saying, do you service this zip code? Can it's already happening.
So, talking like location, Adam mentioned it before, San Bernardino County, all of Inland Empire. We can do LA County, Orange County, and honestly, Adam, like we can do all of San Diego in theory, right? You're muted, Adam.
And all of LA as well.
Yeah. So the answer is yes, we can take care of you guys. That's no problem. Now talking on pricing, this is what you guys are gonna love, right? Because I know the value behind this, and I know that I could charge an arm and a leg for these certs, because we know that nobody else is doing it. But we do have some really fair pricing on this that we feel fits well with what we're doing and the time that it takes, and with the like potentially having to get involved in court, things like that. So for certification, so typically if I were to do an inspection, a one-time inspection, you call me, I'm typically charging anywhere from like 150 to 250 bucks. For anybody with Widget's Way, because Patty made this connection, it would just be 99 bucks to do an inspection. That's it. Right? So I'm barely walking out making any money on the inspection. After that, our certificates individually are each $149. So if you only want one certificate, okay, with like certificate of bedbug clearance, it'd be a $99 inspection, and then it's $149 for the certificate of bedbug clearance. But if you're with Widget's Way, which all of you guys are, and since Patty made this connection, if you want any report on top of that, rather than stacking at 149, 149, 149, each additional certificate would just be 99 bucks. That's it. So let's say you did an inspection, you got your bedbug clearance certificate, and then you wanted a cleanliness report. I mean, you're only looking at, about 450 bucks for all of it. That's it. So nothing too crazy, and to buy yourself a little bit of protection. When it comes to reason for infestation, like finding the source, that can really be a variable cost because of different situations. So we would kind of discuss, if it's apartments and we need to inspect 10 different apartments to try and find a source, obviously that's going to be a little bit more expensive than like a small townhome or something like that. And then if you do it in bulk, so let's say you property manage, an apartment complex that has 150 doors and you want certifications on all of these doors, let's get on a call, and we can negotiate something that makes a little bit more sense. Because obviously, if we're doing it in bulk, we're already there. Well, sure, I don't need to charge the full price for you guys working with Patty. We're really, really appreciative of the connection. Again, Patty, when I called her, said, "Do you know who the hell I am?" And I said no. And she said, "Well, you fell flat on your face, to the perfect person." And here we are. So happy to work really closely with any of you, to know exactly what your situation is, how many doors you're working with, and we can negotiate some things that work well for you guys to help you all feel a bit more protected.
And you guys are gonna try to pop in at the trade show so we can ask you questions there too, right?
Yeah, please come give me a high
planning on
five.
being at the trade show.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that'll be
perfect.
next Wednesday, right?
No, I don't think it's on Wednesday. I think it's on Tuesday.
Oh,
Tuesday.
sorry.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, Tuesday the 20th.
The 20th.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Guys,
If anybody has any questions, you guys, their information's in the chat. Feel free to reach out to them. If you lose their info, you can always reach out to me. This is gonna
Okay,
be my
well, yes.
referral going forward.
One more question. He spoke about everything, but I like to know for maintenance. Let's say you have 150 units, but every month you need to come and maintain the building cockroach free. How many units would you do every week or every 2 weeks or every month to keep everything under control, and how much you will charge for how many units?
So yeah, each one of those situations, if you guys have any, we do all the maintenance and we're happy to do it. That's what we want, right?
Would you give them an estimate to go see how much it would be to put their building on a route?
Correct. So we'd want to do an inspection and give you an estimate. If you currently have a service, my goal is to either offer a more extensive service that fits your guys' needs, or to save you guys a little bit of money, right? So in that sense, we'd have to inspect it.
Yeah, Orkins is charging me 6 units every time and every week. They come, they do 6 units for certain price. So, and then we keep on going and going. So would you be doing the same thing or a different way, or let us know, please?
Yeah, so we just have to get our eyes on it to see what exactly the issues are. Are they dealing with German roaches? It sounds like you probably have a German roach situation, and the tenants aren't cleaning,
Complying with the exterminator.
not
Yeah,
complying with
actually-
the exterminator.
Actually, look, actually it's very clean because of the prevention we're doing. So I'm talking about maintenance. It just keep on going to every unit, 6 units at a time every week, and we've had a good result.
Absolutely. No, you definitely would. So I'm happy to do the same thing that Orkin is doing, but again, I'd have to just get my eyes on it to see what we're talking about, so we can offer the best scenario.
Yeah,
Perfect.
if any of you are interested in potentially, because like I said, like the one thing we didn't review on this call is we're a very good pest control company. We're local based in Southern California. We're very familiar with the insects that we work with here and the personalities of people in Southern California, right? People in Southern California are different than people in Texas, right? Or these large corporations don't really have the touch that we have with the local area. So obviously when it comes to regular maintenance, we'd love to support you guys there. If you guys jump on a regular maintenance plan with us and you're part of Widget's Way, like the price of everything is going to drop. Everything's going to get less expensive for you guys, 100%, right? The biggest thing, and I told Patti this when I first met her, we know in the pest control industry, a lot of these guys in this industry, they came from being technicians, right? And they're not very business minded. Property managers are very business minded, right? You guys are all entrepreneurs, you're business people, right? And that's Adam and myself. And so the biggest thing for us is we want to build a relationship with you. We want to get our eyes on the property. We want to really get to know the ins and outs. Pest control is so much more than just taking care of bugs, right? Because if there's insects, there's issues, then this causes your lives to be a living hell, right? Bugs are living hell for property managers. And our goal is to make your guys' life as simple and smooth as possible. And the only way we can do that is, like Adam's saying, we got to get our eyes on property and we need to build a relationship with you. We got to get to know you, right? It can't just be this, I do this service, you pay me, we never talk. Like, no, I need to know what your goals are, what problems you're having at your property, who your tenants are, right? We got to build that relationship, and that's where you get the most value.
Hey,
All right, I'm going to go on to the rest of our questions. Like I said, you guys, they'll be at the trade show and their information's there. If you need to reach out to them, please do. They would be more than happy to give you a quote on your property.
Hey, Patti, if I can say one more thing, sorry.
Sure, this one costs $1.
So I'll repost, Chris. I see you writing in there. I saw you said, I'd really like someone who understands that the landlord is their client, not the tenant. We understand this very, very clearly, and are even more importantly, far more importantly than the owners of a company understanding that, our technicians understand this, right? And our technicians are trained this way to understand this. And this is something that we're going to continue to teach them and have them understand. So just so everybody feels that comfort, because if the tech doesn't get it, it doesn't matter if the owner gets it, right? So that's a big piece of what we're doing. The business name is A Kellogg Pest Control. I will add my email, my phone number, and the website. Again, please reach out, shoot me a text, call me. If I don't answer, leave me a voicemail, call me 100 times. You can never call me too many times. Happy to help you guys out however we possibly can.
thank you, Patti.
All right, awesome. Thanks, you guys. If you want to hang out and listen to what we got to talk about, you're more than welcome. If you need to get on with your day, by all means, we understand.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Please reach
All right.
out if you'd like us to give you a quote on pricing for maintenance. Thank you, guys. Patti, we'll talk to you soon. Nice.
No worries. Thank you. All right, Arlene, I'm going to ask you a question. I know I saw you get back on. Are you available right at the moment?
I am. Thanks.
We don't have any vacancy decontrol in Larceau, correct? We can bring it to market value?
Correct.
Okay, Surrey, there's your answer. On LARSO, on a vacant unit, rent increase is market rent, baby. Bet you weren't prepared to hear that, were ya? Arlene wants to talk about cosigners versus guarantors.
Isn't there
Oh.
one limitation on the rent increase, the state of emergency? Isn't that till like June?
State of emergency is in effect, but the victim has to be affected by the fires in order for that to go through.
Okay.
So there's nothing saying that's not a rent increase, right?
No, it's a new property. You can go market rent.
Market rent on something that's coming up vacant. It's not a rent increase. So
But it's a new property, it's not something you were already renting.
No,
bingo.
so you were renting it, but that tenant is gone and you're starting with a new
No,
tenant.
well then that's different than my understanding is there were limitations on how high you could, because of the state of emergency, on how high you could raise the rent, no? Wasn't there like some sort of 10% statewide
I believe
limitation
that
until
ends
June?
at the end of this month. Yes.
Yeah.
So, sorry,
June-
here's my opinion. Wait 3 weeks to list it at market rent. That was an opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I would say look up the date that it ends and make sure it's not extended. Because
Okay.
you know how they like to extend those state of emergencies.
I know they do, I know
Um,
they do, but this, and we want to be careful. I agree. I would say to wait till after that date and then put it on the market at market rent, just to err on the side of caution. And then Arlene, you want to talk about a cosigner versus a guarantor? It's simple. A
Yeah,
cosigner.
because I thought in my mind, I thought I wanted a guarantor, not a cosigner. Am I wrong?
Correct. You want a guarantor. Why?
Okay, because they can't live on the property.
And a cosigner can.
So what I wanted to mention to you was take a look on Widget's Way on your criteria. Because it says cosigner. That's why I got confused.
Oh, I will change that right away. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
Okay, that's why I got
Patty,
confused.
on this same topic though, why again don't we want the guarantor living at the property? Just because aren't they more financially responsible? Therefore, they're probably in a better mindset. I don't know. That's just kind of my thinking. Like I personally
Julia,
don't care.
It has to do with rent control and nothing else.
Rent control.
Look at it this
Okay.
way, okay? A guarantor can't live on the property. So if you have a 1-bedroom unit and a guarantor, right? Then the guarantor is financially responsible, but they're not gonna inhabitate the property. They're not gonna live there.
Okay.
A cosigner can live there. Why are they co-signing and just not a leasee?
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
you have to remember when it becomes to
If I
when it
would-
comes to
Oh, wait, hang on, let Chris talk, hang on.
when it comes to below market rent control departments, like all of a sudden people have like PhD level intelligence of gaming loopholes.
Right, so we try to use the least amount of evasive things when we're dealing with heavily regulated areas. Julia, I understand exactly what you're talking about, but we're mostly focused with guarantor versus cosigner in Larceau and places like that where they have very strict restrictions on rent increases, unauthorized occupants, and things of that nature. I hope that makes sense.
Got it.
Also,
Thank you. Yes.
Given the climate in California, though, like you never know what other jurisdiction's going to implement something, so you might as well. Personally,
Protect your asset while
exactly.
you can.
So I would say, even regardless, I would have them be a guarantor. And then if for some reason they did want to move in or something, well, then at that point you could potentially let the original tenant off the lease and you could have a new lease with the guarantor. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't have them if they want to move in. It's just, you just don't give them the automatic right.
Right, don't give them the automatic right of tenancy. That's what that is. Don't give them the automatic right of tenancy. There you go. That's why.
Patty, I have a question.
Yes,
If you have a potential tenant that doesn't meet your criteria, doesn't meet your FICO
criteria,
score,
you said it perfectly.
okay, doesn't meet your criteria. They want their parents to be the guarantor. Guarantor has to make 5 times more times the rent in order to do it. Now, is it one parent? Is it both parent, like how does that work?
This is a business decision. This is where you decide what your process and procedure is. You keep saying 5 times the amount of the rent, depending on the area, I may want 7 times the amount of the rent on a cosigner. Okay,
Right.
you get
Yeah.
to make the rules for the cosigner based on your criteria. Okay, it's a business decision. Let me give you an example, and I'm going to use the city of Compton, although it has changed drastically. But 20 years ago, the city of Compton, the city of Watts were very not desirable. Okay. And in those areas, we couldn't put on our criteria, you have to make 3 times the rent, because people that lived in that area would never meet that criteria. Make sense? That's why we make criteria. It's the rules. So whatever the rules are for your guarantor need to be on your criteria. Example, guarantor must make 7 times the amount of the monthly rent. Why? Because they have to support 2 households. Okay. Could be 5 times. It just depends on the area. I hope that makes sense. They have to have a FICO score of 720 or higher. Why? Depends on the demographic of the area. You have to make the rules that work for you. It's a business decision.
Can I just read you what I have and just tell me if this
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Okay, I have, if a guarantor is required to approve the application, the guarantor must meet the above criteria with the following changes. The FICO must be 800 or higher, and the monthly income must be at least 5 times the amount of the monthly rent. The guarantor must also reside in the state of California.
I don't see any problem with that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Holly, my eviction timeline is now at waiting to hear from LA County Sheriff for lockout date. FYI, our properties in Boyle Heights, which is the city of Larceau. My question is, once the tenant is locked out by the sheriff, if the tenant leaves any furniture or items behind, are we responsible for storing the tenant's furniture or items? I'm not saying the word, but because I don't want to offend anybody, but crap is fine with me.
Oh, it's gonna be crap.
Also, do I need to itemize evicted tenant's image? Probably disposition or photos. Hang on. For the security deposit, or can we just keep it for back owed rent? Okay, hold on, pump your brakes. You got a lot of questions all in one thing, okay?
Yep.
First and foremost, in LA County, I can report to you that in the city of Lancaster and the city of Long Beach, the sheriff is currently taking about 60 days to perform a lockout. I can also tell you for everywhere else in LA County, it's taken about 30 to 45 days. So for Boyle Heights, I'm going to assume you're at the 30 to 45 day mark, just so you know. That kind of gives you a number to look for. Once the tenant's locked out by the sheriff, if the sheriff leaves any, or if they leave any crap behind, are we responsible for storing the tenant's furniture or crap? My question becomes, what happened in your lawsuit? Did you go all the way to judgment? Did you sign a stipulated agreement? Help me out here, Holly.
Okay. Right now, the writ of possession has been sent
Hold
to the
on,
sheriff.
hold on. I
Yep.
got you. I want to go back further. Did you
Yep.
go to court? Did you go
Nope.
to trial?
Nope.
So you got a judgment.
Yep.
You're going to have to do an itemized disposition of security deposit. Any items left behind, you're going to have to deem as abandoned personal property and hold them for 18 days unless the value is under $700. This is all in compliance with California Civil Code 1950.5, just so everybody knows, okay? If you hold it for 18 days less than $700, then you can dispose of it. If it's over $700, you need to hire an auctioneer and hold a public auction. This isn't $700 per item. This is accumulated crap, okay? So whatever's left behind, if it's valued at less than $700, then you do the notice of right to reclaim abandoned property at less than $700, and you post that on the property, okay? There is a form for it, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay.
As far as the disposition of security deposit, you absolutely need to do an itemized disposition. Could you do what you're saying and just do it as the rent and keep the deposit? Absolutely. But you never know what's going to happen in the future. and this tenant may come at you and try to sue you later down the road for God knows whatever reason, and you
Mhm.
want to be able to pull your countersuit forward. Make
Right.
sense?
Yes.
So in order to do that, you need to put on the itemized disposition of security deposit every damage, every expense, everything. So in the event you need that as a tool later down the road, all your ducks are already lined up.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it'll
Okay.
add up really quick because I know what's going on in there.
Exactly, but if you itemize everything and take photos, if you have move-in photos, you need move-out photos.
Yeah.
Just as nicely as I could say this, follow normal process and procedure. There's a reason why we do all those things. We never know if we're gonna need it or not, but it is a blessing when you open
Right.
the file and go, huh, we did everything right. So it
Right.
just makes things so much easier. I mean, I'm just talking out loud. I'm not trying to scare you, okay?
Yeah.
But what if after the tenant gets out, they decide within the next 4 years, because they have a written contract, to come back and sue you for breaching the warranty to provide habitable premises? At
Right.
least you have something to throw back at them of what they owe you.
Right.
So
Okay.
it kind of makes those ducks just stand up ready to rock and roll, okay?
Right.
All
And
right. Oh, go ahead.
where can I store the stuff? I mean, I have no idea. I'm hoping
Honey,
What? Yeah.
honey, don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Think yard sale prices. And if it's deemed as trash, you can push it all into the garage or move it all into one area so you can start doing whatever you need to do. That's
Okay.
18 straight days, not business days.
Okay. And what if he's like, at the end, I want my stuff? I mean, I don't even want to talk to this guy ever again.
Once you do the final disposition of security deposit, you don't have an obligation to do anything further unless he sues you.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. And then one more question. So we're waiting to hear
It's worth
from
$1. I'm sorry.
I'm waiting to hear from the sheriff. I'm told that the sheriff will contact our attorney,
Absolutely.
and then the attorney contacts us.
Absolutely.
And do I have any say in like, is the sheriff like, we're coming out Thursday, June 3rd, that's it, take it or leave it? I mean, and of course,
11 a.m.
yeah,
If you're not there and you don't perform the lockout with the sheriff, then you have to pay them again and they put you back in line to wait the 35 days.
right. Oh God. Yeah.
Well, you asked the question,
I
there's
know.
the answer.
I know. This is my year. I'll just share with everybody that I've had a terrible year and trying to take it. I am going on vacation, and of course, it's gonna fall right in the middle of the vacation in early June. I know it's just gonna happen. Can I have a proxy there for me?
Do you want to know that the person that has to meet the sheriff must be 18 years or older
Okay.
and say they represent the owner?
What kind of documentation do they need?
Not a damn thing. When the sheriff pulls up, they need to wave at them, say hello, and make
Oh.
it known that they are there to meet them.
Oh, sorry, you digitized out there for a second.
They need to wave like a crackhead at the
Yeah.
sheriff
Right.
and let them know, hi, I'm here for the owner. I'm here for the lockout.
Right. Okay. All right.
They
I
gotta
have-
be 18 years or older. It can be anybody.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. Good. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Belsey, Patty, can I include this clause in the lease agreement? Tenant acknowledges that any unpaid rent or legal action taken for non-payment, including eviction proceedings, may be reported to credit reporting agencies, which could negatively impact the tenant's credit history. Yeah, but that's already in most standard lease clauses, and it's also on the 3-day notice to pay rent or quit, just so you know. Hey, I wanted to share a pretty good free resource that answers a lot of basic legal questions. There you guys go, right there. Thank you, Chris. You guys copy that. It doesn't replace Patty or an attorney's advice, but it's a very good starting point for issues. There you go. There you go. All right, anybody have anything else?
Yes, hi, Patty. Sorry.
Hi,
Two
Suri.
questions. One, a tenant left and they left a small, very dirty refrigerator. They were trying to sell, nothing was sold. So whatever they could carry, they got rid of it. The city took it and the refrigerator is there. And it's 5 years old. It's probably worth $50 or something, but it's gonna take that much money to get rid of it.
Post
So,
a notice of belief of abandonment of personal property and then dispose of it after the notice expires.
please say it again.
Post a notice of abandonment of personal property and then dispose of it after the notice expires.
Okay, okay, got it. Great. And my second question is, there was a burglary. Apparently, people were walking from apartment to apartment in the middle of the night, and not men, ladies. And they broke into cars. Apparently, they were very professional because this lady had alarm on the car and didn't go off, and there was no damage to the car. The only thing they took was remotes. And what are my obligations? I basically told the tenant, look, you have to report to police, and if police request the report, I'll be happy to give the surveillance camera, but they didn't ask for surveillance camera.
You don't have to allow them to install surveillance cameras if that's what you're asking me.
No, I installed the surveillance camera. My question is, how do I tell everybody in apartment this is what happened, or do I report it to police? Because I expect
Report the things to the police. You're not obligated to tell all the other residents what's going on. It's just gonna scare them. So keep your mouth shut.
I know, but these two tenants told other tenants, and then one of the tenants came and she said, well, how come you didn't tell me immediately? You know, you're obligated and this and that. So, no.
You're not Channel 4 News.
Okay, got it.
Okay, and call the police, because then you've done your job reporting it to the authorities. Patty, my tenant gave notice and will move out on 5/31. I confirm receipt of the notice to vacate. Did you also notify them of their right to have an initial inspection 2 weeks prior to them vacating? Because that is very important. They have a right to an initial inspection 2 weeks prior to them vacating. That is very important.
Yes.
Good girl. Can I recover late fees of $200 from the security deposit? More than likely.
Okay.
Remember, I can't give you a definite answer. I'm not an attorney.
Yeah.
More than likely.
Hey, I'm not your client, but I can give you some
No,
thoughts
you're
on
not-
that.
you're
I mean,
not
I'm not
the
your
attorney.
attorney.
Okay.
But you
Right,
are.
you're not my
Thanks,
client,
Chris.
but I can give you some thoughts on that.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
The usual avenue, if somebody does come after you, the usual avenue is they're going to go to small claims court, right?
Right.
It's a lot of hassle, and you get to have an attorney if you needed it to go to small claims court. So not too many people are going to chase you down over the $200. Now, on the other hand, if they've been complaining about like habitability issues the whole time, you might not want to do it because they could potentially try and sue you. You know, if they don't have assuming there's no minor child living there, there's a 4-year statute of limitations for habitability claims under the lease. So
Pick and choose your battles. To poke
Right.
somebody in the eye for $200 might not be worth it, is what. Chris-
Right.
also depends what your lease says about attorney's fees. Some of us have capped it to pretty low amounts to where any decent plaintiff attorney is not going to touch it. So because whatever's included there, like it can be a dual-edged sword. And believe it or not, it's funny to me because the attorneys at AGLA webinars never confirm that they never want you to know, but it's a pretty damn good idea potentially sometimes to remove attorney's fees. because it ends up being kind of a sword that's going to be used against you. And if there are no attorney's fees, most tenants aren't going to be able to afford an attorney to go after you for, say, a habitability claim for the next 4 years or something. So it depends, but if you think it can be a business decision, and if you think the likelihood that they're going to be able to get it together and to go after you in small claims court, there's certain people you just know they're just not going to do it, or they moved far away. Like, so what's the likelihood they're going to take time out of work to come back down to Los Angeles?
It's a business decision.
Yeah.
Oh,
this tenant is she's pretty crazy, so I wouldn't put it past her. So when I do my what do you call it, disposition of your security deposit, or listing out anything that needs to be repaired in the unit, do I say,
late fee from January this month and late fee from March of this month? Here's the problem. Here's the problem with late fees, just so you understand, okay? And this is why Chris is telling you maybe it's not a good idea for $200. I realize there may be a lot more on that disposition and not just the 2 late fees. But here's what everybody needs to understand when it comes to late fees, okay? And this is the why when you go to trial anywhere in LA County and sometimes other places, when you want to serve a notice, the first thing the attorney asks you for is a ledger. They want to look at your ledger and make sure that for the time they're going to go to court and the time they're going to battle, that you don't have any late fees on your ledger anywhere. Why? I'll tell you why. There's a huge argument going on in court, and your attorney is trying to keep you away from those arguments. And that's why they tell you, handwrite me a column or ledger that doesn't have any late fees on it. And here's why. It is being argued that late fees, although they're put on their lease contract and agreed to, hang on, somebody's trying to call me. Hang on, let me make them go away. Sorry, I apologize. Am I back? I'm back. Okay. Late fees. Sorry, squirrel, somebody called me. Late fees, we were talking about late fees. Hang on, I'll get it back. It'll come back. Nope, I lost it. Help. What were we talking about? Why they're arguing late?
You said
why they're arguing
that in court.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Blonde. Okay. So why they're arguing late fees, even though the tenant signed and agreed to that amount in the lease contract, is, hey, landlord, how much is your late fee to your bank if you don't pay your mortgage on time? Is it like $35? $35? $45? Is that how much your late fee is on your mortgage? Just hear me out, okay? And now you're charging the tenant 10%. Are you making a secret profit? Well, no, we charge them this fee as a deterrent until you collect it. There's a huge argument going on with late fees in the courtrooms right now. And the reason your attorney wants you to remove them from your ledger before you go into a court battle is they don't want to expose you to that. Okay? So if it's a huge issue in court right now, we may not want to poke them in the eye at goodbye, even though we have the capability. Like Chris was saying, look at it this way. Here's my theory and my thinking, okay? And you guys all have your own number. Everybody has a number. And I'll tell you right now, 10 years ago, my number was $500. Before COVID, my number went up to $1,000, okay? And now I am much further past that. I don't come after you. I will do an itemized disposition of security deposits. So I have it documented what you owe, okay?
Okay.
I'll have it documented for what you owe, but I do not file small claims and go after you unless you owe me more than $5,000. Because I'm going to have to take the day off of work to go into small claims court. Even if you don't show up, it's going to consume my whole day, right? I'm going to get in a battle with the tenant and there's going to be some litigation issues and some mud's going to fly back and forth. You hear me? Okay. That's not worth my time if it's less than $5,000. Make sense to you?
Yeah.
Let that all process for a little. My number used to be $500. Right before COVID, I jumped that to $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
After COVID, I'm telling you, my number went to $5,000, and I may dump it to $7,500. Even though our limit in small claims is now 12,500,
Right.
it's not worth my time. It's not worth the effort. It's not worth the battle for pick and choose your losses. I mean, look at it this way. If you got a good CPA, they should be able to claim that as a loss on your taxes, and you should be able to move forward.
Right. Right.
Okay. We used to have this big thing about poke them in the eye, get them, garnish their wages, go after them. I used to go straight for the jugular, man. I would go after that money. But the reality is you can't get blood out of a turnip. And if that turnip decides they want to buy a house, that's when you'll get your blood. Right? So
Right.
it's a big risky game that has a lot of variables in it. I mean, if they have a child support wage garnishment against them and you come in line, you will never see a dime because child support is going to rule over your judgment.
Right.
Okay, so there's a lot of variables you have to take into consideration. And I must say this a different way. To document immigrants, our government issued them social security cards and identification cards. IDs, California IDs and social security cards. Some of us landlords don't even realize that those have been issued, and we think we don't understand that there actually is a TIN number there so that they can pay taxes and get a job, but it's not a social security number that I can garnish wages through. Paying attention? Okay, so some of the people that we put in our homes may create debt that we're never going to be able to collect on. It doesn't make sense to go try to get a judgment if you can't collect the debt. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right, but in this case, she's talking about withholding it out of the security deposit. So I'm saying,
Correct. Well, she's also saying he owes $22,000 in rent.
oh, I didn't see that part. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
no.
Oh,
not me.
wrong
Not,
one, different
No.
one. Sorry.
no, it's just she's paid she paid her final rent on time. And she gave her notice. So, but she owes late fees for January, February, March, April, but that she refused to pay, that she hasn't paid. So I'm just curious if I could deduct it from her security deposit.
You could, but you may be starting a war you don't want to deal with, because then she's going to sue you in small claims court. You're going to have to take the day off work. How much is that worth to you?
Yeah.
So look at it from that perspective. Sometimes it's a little easier to say, it's not going to be worth my time.
Yeah.
It also might depend if there's
they're
how much
moving
how
out of
much
state.
well and or out of jurisdiction, how much
Right.
how many other things are you going to take off? Is there like extensive damage?
Yeah, I'll know when we do the inspection.
Right. So you
Right.
don't
Yeah.
so you don't really know. If that was the only thing, you might risk it and take it because it's the same thing. Like, are they going to show up? Are they going to really go through all the hassle? They also have to write you a demand letter for small claims court. So,
Correct.
you could always be like, fine, here's your money. Now go,
Go away. You can
go
say
away. You could probably also, make them sign a release that there's going to be no other kind of claims against you.
Right.
no further litigation regarding the
Like a
property
really
located at.
really solid solid release rather, I mean, whether some commie judge would invalidate it, who knows, but in theory, you can have them sign it's better than not having one. And then at least you're cutting off like any other crazy ass habitability claims. So
How do you ask for that? How do you ask for that from the tenant?
you just say, okay, well, I'm willing to pay you back, but I need you to sign a release.
Okay.
Now, if they're real crazy, they're going to be like, oh, I'm not signing a release, blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah.
Give them the money back anyway. It's not worth it.
Yeah. They're
you
real
should
crazy.
try, but it's worth trying to get. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
you can always try and throw somebody else under the bus. Oh, my attorney's insisting I get this or something.
Yeah.
Just don't, it's
Yeah.
not you, it's somebody
Yeah.
else.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. We got a couple more questions.
Thank you.
Miriam, I know you're trying to find out who the best attorney is. You want to know who Holly used. So I'm sure Holly will tell you who she used to do an eviction for her. I'm going to answer Holly's question. So let me get to it. Holly, Miriam wanted to know who you used for your eviction attorney, if you would disclose that to us.
Yeah. Are you okay with me doing that?
I don't care. I'm not an attorney. I don't
Okay.
do that. I don't care.
Maybe he'll give me a little, maybe the firm will give me a little scratch back. I doubt it.
Hey, you never know.
I used the Brennan Law Firm. Knock on wood, really hard. So far, everything has gone okay. As you all know, it's a slow, agonizing process. I'm shocked we haven't got any wrenches, but again, I'm knocking on wood as I speak.
Squeeze your cheeks and hold on.
Oh, I know. I can't wait. And it's haven't gotten rent since November from this tenant. And it's just been, we don't communicate with him. I have another tenant on the property who's great. Thank God for the great tenant. And I just I'm trying to spin it positive. One day I will have a good tenant back in that front house. Yeah. So Brennan Law Firm.
Okay, so there's Miriam's answer. Now I'm going to answer you. Before the sheriff comes to lock the tenant out, does the tenant get a notice letting them know that the sheriff will coming? What's the time frame between notice and lockout? The sheriff posts a kickout order on their door. It gives them a day to vacate. Usually it's 5 days, and they're straight days. Now let me explain something here. And there's a key in the whole process that everybody needs to understand, okay? That letter that the sheriff puts on their door and gives them 5 days to get out, and I'm gonna give you an example, will say that they need to be gone by Monday the 14th by 6 a.m. Okay? That's what that letter will say that's posted on their door. The sheriff then schedules your lockout for sometime after that date and time. Okay, it could be 3 days later, it could be 3 weeks later, it could be 3 months later, depending on the sheriff's schedule. If the tenant calls you, if a neighbor calls you, if anybody tells you what that date and time that's on the sheriff's notice says, you need to know that that's bullshit. Okay, the sheriff puts that on there to scare them out and then schedules you a time at a later date to avoid a confrontation at the property. Okay, they do not want you to tell the tenant when the real lockout date and time is for their protection, because they've already told them to get out before that day even is supposed to happen.
Got it.
Okay, very important that we landlords do not give lockout information to a tenant saying, oh, you need more time, you can stay until this day because the sheriff's not coming till then. Okay, very important. We don't tell them when the sheriff's actually coming. Very important. Okay. Julia, tenant has to serve you a demand letter before taking you to small claims court. Yes, that is true, Julia. And that is why in corporate America, whenever we got served a registered letter or certified mail, we all squeezed our cheeks because we knew a lawsuit was coming. Okay. They have to send you.
They have to send you something. I don't know if they really
have to send you a demand letter.
No.
It's a letter for payment.
Right.
And
they
have
do,
to wait
but
30 days. Usually
it's different.
they send it certified. It's not a requirement.
It's prudent to.
Yes.
But it's different. I mean, you don't need a process server for that. You're not following like rules of civil procedure.
What I'm trying to put in Julia's head is she knows that they send us demand letters because we get certified mail, and in corporate America, we knew that meant that we were going to get a battle coming. So it usually made us squeeze our cheeks when we got something certified mail. Okay.
So then on that same question, I think the lady who had asked this was maybe Sydney. I don't know. So if she were to try to take the $200 from the security deposit, and then the tenant gets upset and starts making up like, oh, there's a habitability issue, then and wants to take her to small claims, then that tenant would have to serve some sort of letter. So then that would maybe
give a letter. Don't use the word serve.
Oh, okay. Give a letter.
Because it doesn't have to be served. They can mail her a letter demanding payment.
Oh, okay.
I I
Go
don't think
ahead.
it's 30 days. I think it's like a reasonable period. So they usually say like a couple weeks or something. I don't think it's specified
I
unless
know
it's changed.
I know it is. It's
You
30 days.
sure?
Yep, because
I wasn't even aware of the 12,500 limit. You know, the last time I looked into it, this is why I don't memorize these things, because
Chris?
everything changes so fast.
Chris, part of my defense as a property manager is, I'm sorry, they didn't allow me the 30 days time before they filed the lawsuit from the demand letter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in any case, you're going to get a demand letter, but I want to clear one thing up is that if it's a habitability claim, some of these people, especially if this is why I was talking about attorney's fees on the lease, some of these people will go get a shystery plaintiff's attorney who specializes in suing landlords.
I don't have such a thing.
And you're not going to be in small claims court. You're going to be in either like limited civil or way worse, general civil, because they're going to say, yeah, there's millions of dollars of damage. My client, there was mold and my client suffered with horrible and is now permanently disabled and, you know, blah, 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 blah,
So
blah.
I
all
didn't
kinds of
want to
bullshit.
say anything when the Bedbug people were in here, but check this out, okay? That $6 million lawsuit in LA, we all heard about it, right? Those tenants were getting bit by bed bugs and having to go to work and explain to coworkers why they were covered with bites. And they were so embarrassed and humiliated. That's why they got so much money. Ouch.
But so my point is, if it's what I'm saying though, is if you poke the crazy person who's really determined and I don't know, knowledgeable, they can go, and especially, do you see why I say take the, well, you have to understand, contingent attorneys work on attorney's fees, right? They get like 40, they'll get 40% of the award usually, but they're also need to have the attorney's fees there to make sure they get paid. So if there's no attorney's fees, they don't necessarily get anything, right? And there's nothing that's going to pay for all their work on the, they really want the attorney's fees. If there's no attorney's fees, they're not going to take the case. They're much less likely to take the case. And let's face it, most tenants do not have the means to hire an attorney to put a real retainer down or to really pursue litigation. Even if they did, like a lot of them, they're going to get their first bill and like they're going to get what we call, you know, fired as a client by the attorney because they're just not going to have the money. So this is why I say like cap the attorney's fees. You're making it much less likely that someone is going to go after you with a plaintiff's attorney, like a contingency attorney for like personal injury or something, that for a habitability claim. Because that's what the real money is, in the habitability and the retaliation.
Yeah.
It's not in the, oh, you know, they took the $200 in late fees. So
that's not where the money is, no.
Right.
But it will be a caveat that gets you to that $1 million lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you don't want to poke them in the eye with it, is what he's
right.
saying.
Yeah. Okay, that makes, my lease caps my attorney fees at $500 for each party.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what ours
applies
does, I
to
think.
small claims too.
Say that again, Patty.
That applies to small claims,
Okay.
general civil, limited civil,
So
unlimited.
as long as
civil.
it's in the lease, then no, if ever something happens, she can't ask for more than $500 in attorney's fees.
And neither can you.
And neither can I. Okay.
It's a double-edged sword. So if you
Yeah,
put
you can't-
5,000, if you put
can't have it be-
5,000 there,
Right.
then you pay 5,000 if you lose.
Right. You're not allowed to have it be different amounts.
Correct.
You can't be like,
And I think what Chris is trying to say without saying it is you may be in a better position to use the following verbiage. Each party is responsible for their own legal fees.
you can't, I mean, I wouldn't it depends. It just kind of depends.
But that is good. Each party is responsible for their own legal fees. If you
It's
wanna
one way
make
to handle it. It's a business decision is what it is.
Exactly,
But I'm,
exactly.
but what I'm saying is capping it is usually a good idea, because what you're really worried about is the giant judgment with attorney's fees. You want to prevent that from really being a possibility.
So let me tell you guys the one that made me throw up in my mouth once, okay? Landlords hand me their lease contracts all the time. Hey, Patty, what do you think? Am I covered? Am I protected? I'm not an attorney, but I'll look at it for you. I'll give you my opinion for what it's worth. And the first thing I do, because I worked in a law firm for 10 years, is flip back, find their attorney's fees clause and see what it says. I will never forget when I was standing there and a gentleman handed me his lease and he was so proud of it. And his attorney's fees clause was set at $15,000. This was prior to COVID. This was prior to COVID. And I just stood there staring at him, you know, acid boiling up in the back of your throat. And he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I want to move into your house." And he said, "Really? You do?" And I said, "Yeah, so I can get an attorney and they can make $15,000 off of you." And he's like, "Oh no, that's when the tenant loses." And I said, "What if you lose?"
Goes both ways.
That's what we mean by it's a double-edged sword. It is equal sides for both sides. So if you write prevailing party is to pay $15,000 and you go to court and you didn't put a phone number on your 3-day notice, so you lose, okay? You could be responsible for the $15,000 for their attorney. Ouch. Ouch. That's what we mean by double-edged sword. It goes both directions.
And as long as the lease says that, there's no way around that, correct? If someone wins against you and a judge says you have to pay this, if the lease says capped at $500 for attorney's fees,
then you better write the check for $500.
Okay, got it.
Okay, and that's the best way I could explain it to you.
Yeah,
But I would say
that's better than 15,000.
right. And I would say in most cases, you know, when you're the landlord, you have more financial resources than the plaintiff, except when you're like starting out and you're over leveraged and, you know, on the shoestring budget side of things. And
Well,
everybody's been there.
world.
So,
Yeah.
right.
In an ideal world.
But
Yeah,
most,
it's also a tax write-off too.
right.
For the
But,
landlord. Yeah.
but most landlords though have more resources. So it's better to like limit the resource that you're limiting the resource of an attorney essentially because, you know, they're going to be out of pocket on their own because the attorney can only get 500 of attorney's fees.
Right.
Okay, David, I see your question, but I want to answer Rachel first. My tenant did pay for the last 3 months. I think it should say didn't pay. My tenant didn't pay for the last 3 months of pool service. My pool man notified me. Do you give him a 3-day notice or first write him a letter? What is going on? Here's what I would do if it were me, Rachel. First, I'd look at the lease contract and see what it says. Is the tenant supposed to pay the pool guy directly? Is the tenant supposed to provide pool maintenance? What is the story there? Because the lease is where it matters. If he's supposed to pay the pool guy directly and he's not paying the pool guy, and the lease says so, you could serve him a cure quit notice, also known as a 3-day curable breach of covenant. If it says that they're supposed to take care of it themselves, then go ahead. I'm going to get bamboozled right now, you guys. I already know what's coming. Go ahead, Mom. We're at the fair and they're decorating, so they're decorating me because I'm in here talking to you guys. So I'm sorry. I saw her coming. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get it now. Hey, at least I'm ready for Memorial Day. People keep calling me while I'm in my Zoom. Don't call me, please. All right. So that's what I would do is I'd look at the lease and go from there. And then David, you got tenant got a parking ticket because someone took over my parking space that day. And now you want to know if you're responsible for the parking ticket. No, not at all. If the tenant would have notified you that someone parked in their spot, you could have towed the vehicle.
Yeah, and no one forced the tenant to go park somewhere they weren't allowed to. I mean,
there you go.
They could still park 2 blocks away unless they're, you know, they could have
But
done a lot of things.
You understand what we're trying to tell you, David, is you didn't tell the tenant to go park somewhere else. The tenant could have notified you and we could have had that vehicle towed. There was other scenarios that could have happened, but the tenant chose to do something else. There's where your liability stops when they made a decision to go do something else. Julia, when does an ADU become subject to 15 years? I do it as 15 years and 1 month. Okay. Look at it this way. When they give you a certificate of occupancy or a completion date for housing, it just says what year. Following me? What year a house was built, right? But when you buy a car, sometimes they give you the month it was built and the year, right? Sometimes we get that on cars, not just the year. You following me? But for the most part, on housing, it's identified by the year. For you, I would do it a year and a month.
A year and a month. Do I have to put that year and a month date on the 1482 addendum? Because on our last call, I remember somebody said.
Absolutely.
Yeah, someone said that line item date is on their papers, but I'm AOA and I don't see that line. So can I just put exempt as of, that 15 year and a month? Or up until, I can't put that?
No, there's specific language that needs to be in there. And this is why Patti doesn't like AOA.
Oh, okay.
So now you need to find a 1482 disclosure that has all three of the proper language. One is you're subject to, one is you're exempt until this date, and the other one is you're exempt.
Okay.
So
yeah, I have the other two.
There's 3 different legal. I know Chris is going to correct me because there's 3 different legal jargon paragraphs. Okay. One applies.
Yeah, it's all boilerplate. I think CAA has a separate addendum that deals with 1482.
Exactly.
You should be nice to one of us, or and we'll probably be happy to,
Yeah, play nice, and somebody might help you.
Of course. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No worries. Is it required to put that date on the 1482? Yeah. Okay, so I answered that. Can we have each party is responsible for own legal verbiage on a change of terms notice? Yes, you can do a 30-day change of terms of tenancy and change your attorney's fees clause. Absolutely.
but not in Larso, right?
You can always change your attorney's fees clause in Larso. It's one of the clauses you can do. An annual rent increase, your attorney's fees clause, and something else. Hold on. Annual rent increase, attorney's fees clause. There's one other thing you can change in a Larso contract. Hold on. You can always do the attorney's fees clause as a 30-day change of terms, your rent increases as allowed, and there's something else. There's 3 things, and for the life of me, it won't come forward. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to call you and tell you what it is when it wakes me up, and I know what that other thing is. Either that or ask me next Wednesday. But there's 3 things in Larso you can do a 30-day change of terms for: your annual rent increase, skep fees, and attorneys. There it was, skep fees and attorney's fees clause. I think that's it. In Larso, you can't change much, but you can change your attorney's fees clause. Thank you all. You're so very helpful. I love this Wednesday call. I do too. Can we have each party on a change of terms? Yes. What about renter's insurance? That's where it becomes tricky. Okay. You can't, it becomes challenging, using keywords here, to put an expense on the tenant that wasn't in the original contract in Larso. That's where making them responsible for insurance could become a problem. Making them switch over to they pay all the utilities could become a problem for you. Any additional expense put on the tenant after inception could become a problem for you. So could you do that, Miriam, about renter's insurance? Absolutely. Just not in LA County, is my opinion. Oh, it was on the original lease agreement? Then you can enforce it. Okay. All right. If nobody else has anything else, I'm going to get off here. We went 20 minutes over. If you guys need help, please know that I'm always looking for new vendors for us that are going to help us and give back rights to the owners. I get why the other exterminator companies won't provide us cleanliness reports, cause of infestation reports. And I sat down and talked to a company and explained to them why we need that. So fingers crossed, that continues and we get some good extermination services helping us. The fact that they'll appear in a jury trial and go to court is just priceless to me. If you guys need anything else, let me know. In the meantime, have a great week. Thank you, everybody. Hope everybody had a wonderful Mother's Day. My kids took me fishing and on a pontoon boat ride all around Big Bend. So it was great. Next week, we're normal for Wednesdays with Widget, I think. Nothing crazy's going on. I'm going fishing this weekend. Deep sea.
Oh, I forgot something on the 11 o'clock webinar that Agla had with the attorneys, whatever. I'm sorry, I forgot his name, but the head of Agla announced that next Tuesday the wine tasting starts at the Agla booth at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
At Pasadena. So I thought I'd pass it along.
And wine with Widget, come on. I will be in Agla's booth probably from about 10 o'clock, I guess, to when I'm ready to get out of there. But I'll be in Agla's booth for the most part of the day. If you guys are coming by, please stop by and see me. Bring me lunch. You know, I don't like to eat that food there. And I'll see you guys all soon. I'll talk to you on Wednesday. If you need something else, please feel free to reach out. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye, Patty.
Thank you, Patty. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.